Good morning, all, and welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. I am Dana DuBois, and today is Fine Feminist Hour. And yet, my co host Lawrence is here because we have such a special
Hello.
guest.
Am a feminist, even with a penis.
Yes, yes, we rely on feminists with penises. Kristi
Yes.
Coulter is our guest today. Kristi, we're so thrilled to have you here.
Thank
Um,
you.
when I conceived the idea for Fine Feminist Hour, I was
Mhm.
like you were one of the people who I was thinking of that I was like, this is the sort of guest I want to bring on this show.
I,
And
I
we're going to
can
get
vouch.
all, yeah,
She was
yeah.
like, if I can get Kristi Coulter, that's the ultimate get.
Oh my God, you were very shy about asking. You should have just asked me.
I did. I did. Well,
Oh, you
eventually
did.
I did, moving in Dana time.
I
So
get it.
Lawrence is here for just the first few minutes because, um,
Because I
gosh,
begged to
there's,
meet Kristi. Because
yes.
Aw.
Kristi, I read Exit Interview and I literally cried like a baby.
Oh.
I am an
You
early
did.
Amazon person, and
Oh,
so I
okay.
knew, friend, I knew what you were talking about.
Yes, I have a couple of other early Amazon friends who left before I even joined, who were like, it's amazing how much things have not changed,
Right.
apparently. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was absolutely just I read the book and it left me feeling wrung out, and also
Yeah.
validated that like, okay, like
Mhm.
this was the most transformational work
Absolutely.
experience of my career and it was horribly toxic in many, many ways.
Yeah, it was both. Yeah, yeah,
Right. It
yeah.
both yeah, both and.
Mhm.
So I'm so happy to finally meet you and be able to gush for a second.
Aw.
And I'm going to be here behind the scenes producing the show. So if y'all need anything, just give me a
Yes.
holler. With
Yeah,
that,
and Lawrence, we do
Yes.
before you go, we have to tell Christy what years you worked there because you were like OG. I mean, like,
I
Oh,
wasn't super OG. I wasn't
well,
like I am
not
now a
like
millionaire
multi-millionaire
OG.
OG.
I was the class that was like, oh gosh, you missed being a millionaire and the stock was underwater for the 5 years that you were there.
right.
So
Right.
I was 98 to 2003.
Oh, yeah. So you left like 3 years before I got there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And the people who were there from like from 97 to early 98, those are the ones that like I literally remember the day in customer service where the stock hit a certain level and like half the people around me were like, we're millionaires, we're
Right,
millionaires.
right. And
And
you
I
were
was like,
like,
my stock is underwater. How are you a
oh,
millionaire?
that's awful. I mean, I ended up doing really well with Amazon stock, but it was like this, it took, 12 years. It was
Right,
this
it took
very
time.
gradual sort of like, there was never a big moment where it was like, I'm Mr. Peanut,
Right.
like, yeah. I,
I'm Mr.
Oh my
Peanut.
gosh.
I
It was
never
so
did
nice to
become
meet you,
Mr.
Kristi.
Peanut.
Have a great show. I'll
Thank
see you
you.
later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Lawrence.
Mhm.
So Lawrence and I have known each other since the fourth grade. Another South Florida kid.
Oh, no
Um,
way. That's amazing. Oh,
I know, and first of all, my little dog Kira always does
hi,
this.
Kara.
I know you're a dog
That's
person.
adorable. She's like lurking.
You know why? Because she knows that I bribe her to hush the whole time we're live. And one day Nature and Oz is gonna pay me because I
Yeah.
feature their product I like influencer style
Right,
on
right, right.
air.
Exactly.
Um so Kristi Coulter, memoirist extraordinaire, author of two memoirs,
Mhm.
came through Medium to kind of catapult into fame.
Yeah.
Also a dear friend who I've known
Yes. A lot.
18 years now,
Oh my God.
I
How do we
think.
both look the same? That's what I want to know.
We look better, Kristi.
We
I just
do.
think.
We do look better.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience? I might be a little lazy because I barely have anything here today. You can probably hear I've
Oh,
been like
wow.
sick
Okay.
all week.
Oh
Go for
no. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah. I feel like I might be on the verge of something. I haven't been sick
it.
in like a year, so it's time. Hi, I'm Kristi. I have known Dana for many years, and we met because I actually hired her at
Yes.
Amazon and for a temporal, I think that
It
became
was a
permanent. And
maternity leave
you were maternity backfill.
for
Yeah.
Julie. Yep.
Oh, that's right. For Julie. Hi, Julie, if
Yes.
you're listening. And I worked there for 12 years in a bunch of different jobs because it's a company that does a bunch of different things. Eventually left. Well, I should say before that, we actually have a lot in common. We both grew up in South Florida. I
I
grew up on the East Coast. You were in Tampa, right?
No,
No?
we
Oh,
grew up I was in Coral Springs. We were about half an hour apart.
that's right, because I was in Boca Raton. Yeah.
Yep, this was going
So
to be
crazy
my
that we never met.
I know this was going to be my follow on, but I want you to introduce yourself
Yeah.
first before I
Yeah.
jump in and blah blah blah.
And we both were, indie rock girls from early on, probably were some of the same shows in South Florida. And I worked at the All Music Guide for a while before I went to Amazon. So for people who aren't familiar with it, it's basically like the world's largest database of music and album information. And did that, worked at Amazon for 12 years, eventually left. And when my first book was coming out, in
Yes.
between growing up and actually writing my first book, I went to grad school and got an MFA in my early 20s, so right out of college. And then when I wasn't famous by the age of 30, I was like, well, clearly this is not meant to be. I better figure out something to do for a living. So I had this whole other tech career. And then eventually wrote my first memoir, which is called Nothing Good Can Come From This, which is about drinking and not drinking, which I now not drink. I used to drink, and
Yes.
it's usually the way it goes.
Yes.
And and uh, and then a second book about my Amazon career called Exit Interview: The Life and Death of My Ambitious Career.
Yes.
And now I write full time. I lived in Seattle for almost 18 years. And as of a year ago, I live in Minneapolis, and a little bit in Los Angeles every year because it's really, really cold here, um, part of the year. So,
Yes. 100%. And
yeah.
one thing that's always fascinated me about the two of us is that
Mhm.
um, the way I've worded it in my own head is like we've had these remarkable parallel lives, but yours has
Mhm.
been bigger. And I think,
You said that to me before. Yeah.
yeah, I think that I've had a pretty big and full life,
Mhm.
but when I look at our trajectories, we both spent time at Amazon, but your career was earlier and bigger.
Mhm. Mhm.
You came through Medium as a writer, as
Mhm.
did I. Built a small community and launched some publications. You had
Mhm.
one essay, Anjali,
Yeah.
go so hyper viral that you got a book deal. It,
I got letters from every continent except Antarctica.
that's incredible. It's one
It
of
was
the most
crazy.
extraordinary essays I've ever read.
Oh, thank you.
In fact, I think Karen, our amazing words today, words, not admin, moderator. That's the word, our
Ah, yes.
moderator. I took codeine last night, so I'm going to be real dumb today.
Ooh,
I
coding
believe
is
that
fun.
she has the link to Anjali. I sent
Oh,
it
cool.
because it's we're going to talk about that in a moment. We
Mhm.
both fell for the same local Lothario indie musician,
Yes,
but I
many
had
of
a
us did.
dalliance and you had a prolonged relationship. We both wrote about his downfall,
Mhm.
but I wrote an essay and you rallied the victims
Yeah.
and created a movement.
Yeah. I
I'm kind of in
introduced.
awe
Mhm.
of your power.
Well, it's funny that that time was a time when I thought, because these women had come to me and said, these something terrible crimes happened to us, alleged crimes, um and I thought, what is my power here? And I realized, I
Yes.
have media connections. And so the most powerful thing I can do is make an introduction. And so it was one of those times that I was absolutely, I mean, the whole thing was horrific, but I was absolutely
Yes.
thrilled to have the power to say, I can introduce you to this woman who is now going to investigate your story. And I mean, she had me explain to them, you're going to be grilled. I'm going to be asking for documents, like, are they up for this? And it to me, it was like, this is what power and connections are for. So I could put these two parties together, and then I could step out
Yes.
and she could go do her thing, and found the stories to be very credible. So I
Yes.
don't
And we
know what
don't,
else it's
yeah,
for.
I agree with you, and we don't want to spend much time talking about the creeps. But I do think it was a really important thing to do because so
Mhm.
often women are seen as being in competition with one another, adversarial,
Yeah.
and you um, you used your power for good to be like, I believe you, first of all. I believe all of you, and
Yep.
I'm gonna elevate this and help you. It was truly remarkable, and I even just on that outside of that, when I wrote the essay that I wrote, um, a lot of the same women found me, and so to help like
Yeah.
to help amplify the voices of women who are not being
Mhm.
believed, who are being discredited, was really powerful.
It's been such an incredible experience because, there were the three women who went on the record, but there are many others who've gone on the record since with allegations, and we all know each other. And a
Yeah.
lot of us realized we had been seeing him at the exact same time.
Mhm.
And there was not a moment of like, oh, well, like I actually, one of them was in LA last week for when I was still in Los Angeles for the REM tribute show. And like we went to it together, and had lunch. And like we all just like, we always say, man, he had great taste in women, if nothing else. And there's
Yes.
not a lot else going on there, but like great taste in women. And so
Right.
to me, it's been like this really healing thing where all these women who could have been like, oh, so you were the one that I suspected, are just like, wow,
Right.
you're awesome. It's been wonderful. Yeah. A
I,
real
I,
silver lining. Yeah.
yes, I love the idea of incredibly shitty men can have really great taste in women. And
You really
it's also
did. Yeah.
because it was a local musician here in Seattle.
Mhm.
There's a huge sense of community here in the local music scene, and
Mhm.
always has been.
Mhm.
And so there was very much this like, we believe you and we're going to elevate you,
Yeah.
like just everywhere. So I don't want to
Yeah.
elevate him, but I do want to talk about that story since it was another
Yeah.
commonality, and to say, like,
Mhm.
bravo, like
Oh, thank you.
truth to power, and standing up for women is like,
It
it
just
was a powerful thing.
it felt like the only thing to do. And I did have to do a lot of introspection to make sure, because also, I had my own reasons for just being like, I don't like this person.
Right.
And I had to do a lot of introspection to be like, are you making this introduction because you don't like this person or because you believe the victims? And I was
Yeah.
like, I kind of unequivocally, especially when I saw that documentation, I was like, this is
Yes.
only one thing to do. So, credit also to KUOW, like,
Yes.
I had talked to a lot of male journalists about this story, and mostly they just kind of didn't get back to me. And then this, yeah, Isolde Raftery from KUOW just took it and just ran with it. And she actually has a new podcast out about some kind of sexual abuse scandal that happened at her high school, which
Oh,
I believe in Seattle. I haven't listened to it yet, but so
well, I'll
she's
need to
really,
look for that.
yeah, she's amazing. She's a
Oh
force.
my gosh, I would love to bring her on the show. I've never met
You
her,
should.
but
I'll
her work
introduce
is
you.
amazing. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I would
she's
see
great. Mhm.
women connecting women. It's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. Um, I'm trying to think. I'm going to be a little slow today, which I hate because I'm like, I've so been looking forward to this, and I'm
No,
like,
it's okay.
everything is like this today.
It's not Amazon. We don't have
Right.
to be like bullet point, bullet point.
Let me write a PRFAQ.
Right.
Um, so were you at any point during this, this is the last question I'm going to ask, and we're going to shift topics, but
Mhm.
were you accused of being a woman scorned? And being
Oh,
like,
yes.
you're
Oh,
not
my
credible
Lord.
because you're just getting back at your ex.
Because he didn't put a ring on it. Absolutely. In fact,
Oh my
his
God.
wife, his
Like,
wife,
you need a ring, Kristi. Like, you need
right,
a ring.
exactly. Like I got that. And I don't need you, certainly not from you, buddy. But
Right.
yeah, we all were.
Gumball
His
ring.
his wife apparently went on Lydia Lunch's podcast and talked at length about me specifically. And I was like, dude, I didn't even accuse the guy of anything. It's just being
Right.
being a jerk, like he didn't assault me. Yes, I was absolutely accused of being a woman scorned. The story was that he was just too much of a heartbreaker and we all couldn't handle it and lost our minds and concocted an international conspiracy. So
Right.
the and honestly, and it's awful like when you're talked about like that, but at least we were all in it together. And that really helped me. And then also just remembering like, well, I'm not, I wasn't assaulted and then insulted. I
Right.
was only insulted. So I was like, well, could be a lot worse. Yeah.
It
But oh yeah.
absolutely. And that was a really interesting part. I just put the link to a friend link to the story on
Mhm.
Medium. I haven't shared it on Substack yet, but I will at some point.
Oh yeah, you
Um,
should. It was excellent. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very interesting to be like, I was not assaulted.
Hmm.
And I don't feel victimized. I mean, I had a very superficial, like, we went to
Yeah.
sing karaoke and made out in front of a club, and then I was like,
Hmm.
nothing happened there. But there were so many signs in that night in retrospect. And it was
Yes.
that, as a Gen X woman, that sense of wanting to be the pick me girl, the manic pixie, I'm
Mhm.
not like other girls. I
Yeah.
see, so like when I was thinking back on that moment, and this other woman he'd brought with him on our date,
Right. Right.
and
Of
who I
course.
confirmed like had of course been sleeping with him, and who was
Hmm.
just like melting down as the night went on. And we, there were five
Oh,
of us that were
right.
there, and
Right.
how my friends and I were kind of picking on her at the time, like, oh my God,
Hmm.
what is she doing here? And how,
Hmm.
me now
You're just like,
is like,
oh,
all of my compassion is with the woman, and like, wow, of course all of these things about him are likely true. Like, this was very
yeah.
but we didn't recognize his shitty behavior back then because we were pitted against one another, right?
Well, absolutely. And for me, when the first women brought these stories to me, I immediately, even though he didn't assault me, and I immediately was like, oh, because there were all these weird, just little things about my relationship with him that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that I just kept being like, well, I'll just put that under the rug. I just don't want to think about that. And suddenly it all just fell into place. And I was like, I see how this could so easily have become assault. And I think for me, a lot of it was that because I don't drink, he didn't drink around me a lot. Um, and
Uh,
yeah, no, he didn't drink around me at all, which is actually, to his credit, that was nice. And sometimes he'd have a couple, but the few times I saw him very drunk, he was one of those people whose whole personality changes. And I know that a lot of the allegations were associated with alcohol. So I was in the same position. I was like, oh, and the takeaway for me from the relationship is really just, I mean, I was in my 40s. I did not have the excuse of being 20
right.
years old and just kind of dumb, and it being the
Right. But
90s.
but
I
also like I don't know. I only watched it from afar because we're Facebook friends and you were
Yeah,
messaging about it, and
yeah.
because it was pretty long standing, and I was like, oh, is this sort of wish fulfillment from younger years? Like
I
a
think so.
recapturing of that adolescent energy?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, he was I think he's a brilliant musician, one of my all-time favorites. And I was like, yeah, it is this kind of like, it's a little fantasy that I look back and I'm like, yeah, I had to play that out. It would have
Yeah.
been to be like, no, you can't, I think would have been kind of a mistake, even though playing it out was also, I'm like, either way, I was going to make a mistake. So
Right.
so yeah, it was funny, but I look back and I'm like, wow, even as like a powerful person, in your late 40s, you were also just kind of like this 16-year-old girl willing
Yes.
to put up with, I mean, I had some unhappiness very soon as I started to realize what kind of personality I was dealing with. And I just kept being like, nope, you got to make it work.
Yes.
You got to make it work. And it's like, you did not have to make it work. You
Yes.
could have just
Did not
walked
have to
away. Like, what are you doing? So yeah, live and learn, live and learn.
live and learn. I'm laughing
Apparently,
because
even at this age,
right? I'm laughing because before the show, when we were like, I have a list of topics like this long to talk
yeah,
about, and we were like, let's not talk about that dude and let's
I
not
know.
talk about Amazon. And we jumped in, but like, there's such parallels between us. But I'm going to shift topics and say,
Okay.
we've been Facebook friends for a really long time. And
Mhm.
one of the things that as you were coming up as an author, you
Mhm.
also became extremely forward on social media as
Mhm.
a feminist voice during the
Mhm.
2016 election.
Yes. Oh my
And
God.
right when we were emailing about topics for today,
Mhm.
you used the word radicalized during the 2026 election, or sorry, the 2016 election.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it was hard back then, even among feminists, or maybe
Mhm.
especially among feminist women, to find people who were like, I actually fucking love Hillary Clinton. What is your problem? She's a
Yeah.
great candidate.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the idea of becoming radicalized and how that grew
Yeah.
you as a person and a writer?
So I consider myself a feminist since I was, very young, as long as since I knew what it was, and even before that. And what happened in 2016 was that I understood very, very clearly, very suddenly that misogyny on the left was, I don't want to say it's as much an issue as it is on the right. I mean, the left is not trying to like take away my bodily autonomy, but the
Right.
left also doesn't really care that much about my bodily autonomy.
Right.
The
It's
level of
it's it's kind of optional, you
right,
know?
it's kind of like a niche issue. I'm like, it's
Yes.
fucking 51% of the population. Like, this is not a special, I
Right.
liked a lot of things about Bernie Sanders, but like when he was like, well, Planned Parenthood is the establishment, um, I really saw red. I was like, this is where a lot of women get their health care. Like, this is when I was a teenager, this is how I didn't get pregnant or get an
Right.
STD or a serious STD anyway. And when it was just shocking to me that not that Hillary Clinton would be, every candidate can be criticized, and there's things I could
Hmm.
criticize her for, but that the gendered language, vagina voter, the idea that I could
Oh
only
my
be
God.
voting for her because she was a woman. Like I'm not that stupid, and I really felt, and I had, men telling me in person, like, because a lot of men would be like, well, that's all bots. And I was like, well, these bots have skin. Because they have men telling me in person that how awful she is and that she's just the same as Donald Trump. And I knew very clearly, like when he was elected, that we were going to lose Roe. I thought, this is it. It's
Oh my
going.
God. How many people in November 2016 told you you were crazy for
Oh yeah.
saying Roe v. Wade's gone?
Oh
Were we
yeah.
all accused of being hysterical? Because
My
I heard it,
father, I mean,
my
like,
brother.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or it'll quote, just go back to the States. And like, first of all, even if that had worked out fine, a woman's most basic rights should not depend on her latitude and longitude points. I remember driving, across state lines from Washington to Idaho and being like, this is really weird. My bodily autonomy just vanished in
Yes.
5 seconds. It's very strange. And that can happen now if I drive from Minnesota into, like Iowa. Um,
Yeah.
that is not American. And I often think if we were to say to people, well, what if we make voting rights for people of color a state by state thing? There would be an uproar among all decent people. And yet, when it came to reproductive rights, people were just kind of like, well, women can move if they don't like the state they're in.
They can just
Just
travel.
move. Yeah. Yeah.
They can just plan a trip, which we also know isn't true because Texas is starting to
Right.
go after women who do that. They've got
Right.
bounties on them. They're going after the providers in other states.
Yeah, absolutely. They
So,
haven't stopped. And I do think there
mm-mm.
were some people who were skeptical that the Republicans would let go of Roe as a wedge issue, as a fundraising issue. I understood that skepticism, but like they have found others and they're not stopping. They're not happy. Now it's birth control. Now it's Tennessee talking about like the death penalty for women who have abortions. And at this point, I wanted to say, well, that's clearly will never happen, but I honestly don't know at this point. Anything could happen.
You
So,
know, Lawrence and I on air with, I think it was Melissa
mhm,
Corrigan. I'm trying to remember who our guest was that day. We were like, people don't have vivid enough imaginations,
right.
but the pattern recognizers, the dot connectors like us, we do. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
Gen X is known for that, for being like,
right.
oh no, we bought the URL, the Imagination Project of
Oh,
like,
nice.
you should, yeah, in our all our spare time, we're gonna launch that. But like,
Yeah.
it's not that far-fetched to say that our right to vote is
Mhm.
on the line in the next 3 years.
They're
Women's
talking
right to
about
vote.
it.
They're already
Yeah,
talking about it. It's that
yeah.
Overton window of like, of course it seems absurd right now, but when you have
Mhm.
the SAVE Act coming forward that would disenfranchise millions of any woman who changed her name, which good on you for not changing your name
Oh,
when you got
yeah. I
married.
was never ever going to do that, and I'm so glad
I changed
now.
mine.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I just was
got
like,
I hated my maiden name. It's a bad name.
well, yeah, I was fine with mine. I like my husband's last name, but I also was like, yeah, I don't want to go to the trouble. It's funny. I used to feel like I had to have like, well, I published under my maiden name, and it's true I had, but honestly, I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to change it. I
Well,
was like,
Kristi Coulter is a banger name. I mean,
thank you. I've never really liked it. I've never felt like a Christie. I'm always like, parents, why didn't you give me a name with more gravitas or something? But
yeah,
it is what I guess I could have changed my first name instead when I got married. Been like, I'm going to take this opportunity to just
right.
change
You're not a
something.
Christine.
I'm not. I'm a Christie. I'm a Christie. Yeah,
Wow.
my
Like,
mother. So do you remember there was this TV series with Kelly Martin, um, that was called Christie, and it was like just about like this school teacher in like 19th century America or something. Um,
no, I don't remember
it
that.
was maybe a 90s thing. Anyway, apparently I was named after that book. I've never read it, but I think it was like one of those bestsellers at the time that's, kind of faded.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. But I
I do love you were named after a character in a book. That's fitting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I should read the book at some point. I think it's kind of like light Christian fiction or something. I don't
Oh,
know. I really should track it down. Um,
should write an essay about it.
I should. And it's funny, when I was in my 20s, I looked exactly like Kelly Martin. It was really strange. Like people would stop me in stores. I think she's like a foot shorter than I am, but people would stop me in stores and be like,
I
oh, and I was like, okay,
Ellie
so
Martin. I'm
so
not sure who
strange.
that is. Hold on.
She was on this show called Life Goes On that was about this kid with Down
Down
syndrome and his
syndrome. Yep.
family. Yeah, she
Oh,
was
you do
very
look like her.
yeah, yeah. We both have kind of round eyes. She's really tiny. But yeah, I don't know if she's still working, but it was just interesting. I was like, well, I was named after
Your
her
character. Oh, that is
fictional.
weird.
Yeah, it was very strange. So what you were saying about the Overton window, I think I see it happening with abortion where now people are like, look at these children, who are raped can't get abortions, and women who, have like life-threatening complications can't get abortions. And it's really important to point out, but it also makes me really nervous because I worry that we're going to move it to a point where that seems reasonable, that if you're going to die, you can have health care, and
Right.
otherwise you have to have the baby. And I just believe that, up
Syndromes.
to that point of viability, after that, I'm fine with, only emergency abortions. But um if you don't want it, you know,
Yes.
I
We're
I'm a
completely
hardliner on
aligned
this.
on that. Of like,
Yeah,
that is a neutral decision when it's not your own body. It's certainly not
right.
neutral when it's your own body. I am thankful I have never had one. Never had the need to,
Yeah,
but
same.
if
Yeah.
I needed it, the idea of being trapped in my own body,
Yeah. Yeah. And
gestating life, like I've had two babies.
mhm,
Um, I love being a mother.
mhm.
Carrying a new life to term is excruciating on the body.
Oh yeah, I can barely imagine.
It will
I
never be
just
the same.
it's dangerous. I mean, it's empirically dangerous, and women should only undertake it if they actually want to. And I got radicalized on this point too, because in the 90s, I was very much part of that, like every child a wanted child, and pro
Yeah.
child, pro family, pro choice. We felt like we had to be like, we
Yes.
love babies. It's just, and it didn't work. If it had worked, I would still be spewing that line. But every time we sort of said, oh, made it sound icky, they took more ground. So now I'm just like, fuck it. I mean, honestly, if they wanted to pass a law that like even after viability, women should I'd just be like, fine, let's just leave it up to the woman. Because the Democrats rolling over time and again, there's no common ground on this issue.
No, it
So
went from when we were younger, it went from keep abortion safe and legal. Do you remember the
yeah.
blue button with the big
Oh yeah,
font?
I had one on my car. I think my
Yeah.
little Toyota. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. I had a
Mhm.
little Datsun. I did not have that sticker on
Mhm.
it, but I would have put one on it. Keep abortion safe and legal. And then it rolled to the word choice. I'm
Yeah.
pro-choice. And so I think it was somewhere around Clinton, maybe,
Mhm.
though the details are blurry,
Obviously.
but they stopped using the word abortion to the point where even as I'm saying it now, it sounds heavy and a little
Right.
scary to say it, but like
It's not a
abortion,
pretty
abortion,
word.
abortion.
Right, right,
It's
right.
it should just be like tonsillectomy,
Exactly, exactly.
appendectomy,
Yeah.
abortion,
And I remember Bill Clinton, he switched to safe, legal, and rare.
and rare.
Um, and
Yes.
it's like we don't really care if tonsillectomies are rare. I mean, I'm sure that some doctors do because they'd rather treat them, whatever, like with medication,
Right.
but it's not a moral thing. And I remember thinking, ooh, I don't know about this. I don't think we should be saying they should be rare because we're implying again that it's like let's murder as little
Yes.
as possible. And I don't think it's murder. Certainly, not in that first when it can't survive outside your body. Um,
Yes.
and so that, yeah, like I really, just to bring it back to 2016, like just sort of became radicalized in this way where I thought, women, we're really on our own. We had to make secret Facebook groups to be like, Hillary Clinton is
Yes.
a good presidential candidate.
Oh my God, I was in that group, Bitches for Hillary, right?
It was yeah. I don't remember if I was in that one, but I was in a couple, and it was because like people
Yes.
were being, as a writer, like I would get threats for just, and not even being like she's my idol, because she wasn't, but for just being like she's a really good candidate. She's a very strong candidate.
Yes.
She would be a very good president, and we should vote for her. I mean, just basically being like, here is a
Yes.
good job candidate. Let's pick her. And
Right.
and I
I,
remember
yeah.
also being at the caucus. So in Washington, you used to have caucuses, and there were these two women next to me. It was mobbed. It was very crowded. And they were probably in their 70s, and they were confiding in each other that they were going to vote for Bernie because Hillary's literal voice was too grating.
Too grading, right.
And I was like, Bernie Sanders sounds like he's talking through a fan. I mean, like through a cheese grater. Like Bernie himself would be like, what? You,
Uh,
you
Bernie
think
sounds
her
like
voice
my
is
my late grandfather, like the New York
right?
Jew thing.
Like he's like,
You gotta do the things. Yeah.
and I was thinking, Hillary's voice is too grating. It just,
Yes.
and just the fact that they would choose, it was really, so ever since then, I've really been in this place of like, of just like, who can we trust? It happened. And I remember that year men were telling me, oh, I'm dying to vote for a woman. It just has to be Elizabeth
Right. It
Warren.
has to be the my Canadian girlfriend or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, you would know her. She goes to another school. And so then
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren, who actually is like probably my ideal candidate, then she ran in 2020 and they savaged her. Suddenly it was like, well, she was
Yes.
once a Republican. I was like, yeah, in like 1978, like people
Right.
change. And it was a different thing then. And they were so brutal to her. And now they're like, oh, AOC needs to run. And I'm like, you're going to shred her when she
Oh,
runs.
she will get
You're gonna,
decimated if and when
oh,
she runs.
decimated because she's cute too. Like she's young enough to like they could
Yes.
think of her as a girlfriend.
She's beautiful. Like people don't
Yeah.
really, it's so surprising to me that people don't talk about how beautiful she is.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't
But
come up more.
it's
And
surely part of it. But she's
yeah,
brilliant and a fighter.
right. And she's hot, and she's got
Right.
like good lipstick and everything. And
Great
so
lipstick.
I think anytime, and then, Kamala Harris laughed too much. Like we like these women until they ask for the job. Like people were happy with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State and a senator, but as soon as she wants another job, it's like, ooh, I don't know.
We
And
like these
so
women till they ask for the job.
yeah, there's actually data around Hillary. Like they've done these studies that her approval ratings when she's in a job are very high. But then when she asks for a job,
Mm,
everyone's like, no,
right.
you just don't seem authentic or something. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if she's authentic. I'm not inviting her to move into my house, although that'd be
Right.
kind of, she can come over.
Anytime. Yeah. I've got a spare room.
I
I've got
actually
a
like
basement
her.
apartment.
I like her much more. I like her even more now. I didn't vote for her. Like when Obama was running, I voted for Obama. I mean,
I
it
did too.
wasn't, that's one reason like why the vagina voter thing just annoyed me so much. I was like, I had a chance to vote for a woman for president and I actually didn't do it. I voted for the guy. So I just fundamentally don't trust what I guess the word would be men since
I guess what's the
2016.
word I'm looking
Like
for?
I
Men.
was trying to come up with some way not to just use that big word, but it's very case by case because I can no
Yeah.
longer assume that the left thinks that women are regular humans whose rights are fundamental. I'm very aware that they are willing to look at us as some like special interest group.
That's what it comes down to.
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of talk about we need a big enough tent, right? We
Yeah.
we need to be able to accept candidates who understand their region and the biases there so they can
Mhm.
get elected. And I'm like, uh-huh. And they're like, we need to all support each other and not be sort of looking for purist candidates who,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yep. And then they're like, so abortion rights, maybe not so much. And then I'm like, I've been on a call before where I've had like a podcast live where I've had to
Mhm.
be like, but actually, no, not that.
Right.
Because that is
No.
literally my bodily autonomy. You can't question that and expect
Right.
me to throw an iota of support behind it.
No, it's not a
No.
special right. It's so
No.
without that we have nothing. And and I have no issue with like politicians who would never themselves have an abortion or
No,
I mean,
that's fine. Your
you
personal
know,
choices are
right.
a-okay.
It's a secular government, or it's supposed to be. And so that's where the rubber meets the road for me. And yeah, it's funny how the big tent thing so often seems to come down to like, so maybe women don't own their own bodies. That's fine, right? And
Right.
I'm like,
A
actually,
big tent for all the men.
right, right. And
Oh,
the tent, it's never seems to be big in like the other direction. Like the big tent would be like, let's have a lot more female candidates and and candidates of color and have people like a big tent would be like, let's listen to who Black women think we should vote for because they tend to be really right.
they do
And
tend to
like
be really right. And
do
I wanted,
that.
you posted something on Facebook last night that was really smart. I say that a lot. And it was about the Tallarico Crockett race
Hmm. Hmm.
in Texas. Can we dig into what you said?
Yeah,
Because I thought
yeah,
it's a little bit contradictory to what you're saying, but I would say it's more nuanced, not a
yeah,
contradiction, which as memoirists, I think we both like dancing around the
right.
edges of nuance.
You kind of have to. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I had said because I didn't follow this obsessively. I'm not like I actually don't like to think about politics that much, but of course I was aware of the dynamics. Tallarico, I think, is very interesting. First of all, one thing I mentioned is that so he's not an evangelical Christian. Some people corrected me on this, but he is like a hardcore, born again Christian who has been more defensive of abortion rights than most secular Democratic male politicians. Like he
Amazing.
has just unequivocally been like, of course, women should have the right to abortion. And he's even sort of said, like, the Bible is not against it. I mean, he's like quoted scripture either saying it's pro or not against or whatever. So I've been very impressed by the fact that like this guy who was like literally like a Bible thumper has been more supportive of reproductive rights than most Democratic politicians. Um, Second, a lot of people in exit polling apparently said they voted for him because they didn't think she was electable. Um,
Hmm.
and if you're very online, like I am, you see a lot of people saying, oh, it's because of her stance on Israel. I don't think for the average American voter it's not the
No.
reason. That's a very like niche thing. Um, I think people are like, well, she's not just a woman, but she's a Black woman, and it's Texas. And what I said on Facebook was, I think they're onto something. I'm at a
Not
point
just me
now where,
saying it.
yeah, yeah, where I don't think that I'm not sure a woman, let alone a Black woman, is electable to the highest offices in the land. Now, obviously, there's a ceiling. We have governors, we have some senators, a minority of them, but I've always been against, like when I go to the primary, I vote for who I think would be best. I'm not trying to game it out. Because I'm like be the change you wish to see in the world. And I think if we
Yeah.
all just voted for the person we wanted rather than worrying about electability, we would elect better people.
Yeah.
But I can no longer blame people who are like, well, I voted for the white man because at least he can compete in
Yeah.
America. Because that's how much, the last two or the last three elections, we have not only rejected the woman, but we've rejected her for like the worst person in the world.
Yes, we have.
It's not even like it was Hillary versus like a Mitt Romney. It was Hillary versus someone who can barely get a sentence out. And
Yes.
we were like, okay, we have the Secretary of State, former senator, who's brilliant. And then we have this like failed businessman who's like a credibly accused predator who's just flat out
Not just
stupid.
accused, well, in
That's right.
2016
He's
accused,
since
but now
been
convicted.
adjudicated. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, oh, let's go with him. He seems
Mm.
and so that and then we did it. again, when he'd added like insurrectionist and yeah, adjudicated rapist to his resume, we were like, okay, we've got this woman who was VP. Was she the most effective VP? No, but she's done the job. Senator, attorney general of one of the world's largest economies, California. No, let's pick this guy. And the fact that we would pick like basically the dumbest human being alive against these women tells me that we will not choose a woman. There will not be a woman who is adequate. So I'm like, and meanwhile, our rights are disappearing. Here in Minnesota, we were under siege for 3 months. And so I understand people being like, oh, thank God, a Christian white man. Like, let's cling to him. Let's cling to his shirt tails and beg him to save us.
A Christian white man who can recognize that what his beliefs are and what
Right.
his values are not everyone else's.
Right.
And
He
that's
actually
really rare.
believes in secular, like this, the fact that he is like, oh, we should have a secular government the way that the Constitution set it up is so remarkable that I resent that I feel so much gratitude for that. It should just be normal. But I'm like, you're incredible, James Tallarico.
I think like I was pulling for Jasmine Crockett. I think she's
She's great.
incredible.
Yeah.
And my biggest bias right now is like I want people who can fight. And there's concern whether Tallarico will have the teeth and the grit
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
fight. But can I just say, hearkening back to our old days professionally, disagree, commit. Like
Right.
I wanted Crockett to win. She didn't.
She'll
I'm
be
behind
back.
Tallarico now. They both are rising stars.
Right.
And I think this is something that progressives lose
Yeah.
is that we cannot align around another candidate who we were fighting against, at the first stages. And it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
important to maybe that's what the tent is about, unless it's a person who's deeply egregious, but that's not what this
Right.
is.
It's
This is
probably
just like
these are two good candidates. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there was some woman on Threads yesterday saying, well, I won't vote for Tallarico because we need only democratic socialists for the next 10 years. And
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, honey,
Wouldn't that
look,
be
this
nice?
is, yeah, I was like, this is not, you need to be building now. Basically, I've gotten to an age where I'm like, look, I've seen I understand how change happens now. You need to be building locally. Like MAGA took really 30 years to form out of kind of the Tea Party and the contract with America. I mean, these things don't just happen overnight. And so
Right.
I worry about people. And I feel like when I was in my 20s, I did not expect the world to change overnight. Like I feel like I was already
No.
more realistic. Gen X, I was like, well, I mean, things like the fact that we had gay marriage is still, I'm like, really?
I still can't believe that marriage
happened.
equality passed and Washington was among the first.
Yeah.
Thanks, Macklemore. Like
Yeah.
people like to pick on Macklemore, but
Yeah.
Same Love, his song, like it helped
Yeah.
catapult.
And Jeff Bezos actually gave like $2 million or something. I know it's not a lot for him, but
No, but back then, him championing for
anything.
marriage equality was huge. And I will you know, whatever awful yada yada. We don't need to dig into that, but yeah, he was one of the people who helped champion marriage equality in Washington. We were one of the first.
Yeah.
I still can't believe it's still love. I went to Lawrence's wedding, two of
Yeah.
our weddings.
It's
I
like
officiated the
now.
second one.
When it happened nationwide, like I still am like, wow, I just didn't think now and then, like I'll be like, I was watching Heated Rivalry. I finally watched Heated Rivalry.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
It's
is
really
it as good
fun.
as
Like I don't know if it's actually like good, but I really like it. It's one of those things. It definitely got its hooks in me, but it is explicit. Like I was like, this is like really high quality porn at moments, just with no, there's no full frontal nudity. More's the pity. But I remember thinking like, I remember when it was having a kiss between two men, like on Melrose Place, it had to be shot from the back of someone's head.
right.
And even at the time, we all were like, this is ridiculous to show the kiss. But so the fact that things have changed that much is just kind of astounding to me. But it took, when Ellen DeGeneres came out, like it was on the cover of Time magazine because it was such a big
Right.
deal. And now we're all just like when Jodie Foster came out,
Everybody's
first of all, I
cool.
was like, duh.
Right.
thought everyone knew Jodie Foster was gay, but like people just don't really care. And I never really knowingly knew a trans person until the last
Yes.
decade. And that's from living in Seattle. And now to me, it seems perfectly just whatever. It's fine. It's perfectly normal. So, but for young people or hard leftists to think that there's going to be some great revolution and everything's going to change, the human cost of that, if there were some revolution, I mean, we're kind of living it now.
Yeah.
It's not going well. Like it's not okay. And you and I are fine. I'm miserable about it, but
Yeah.
we're throwing so many people under the bus. So I get frightened when people can't align full-throatedly around a candidate. There were a lot of men who said to me, I voted for Hillary. And I'm like, yeah, you first trashed her for 6 months
Right.
every day on Facebook. You called her Hillary and then you voted for her. Fuck you. That is not like, that's not okay.
100%. I
Yeah.
think I think this is a fair summation of what you're saying, which is we believe in incremental change. And
Yeah.
I
Because
and
it's the
incre
only kind you can have, really.
yes, and that was
Yeah.
kind of my big problem with, well, one of my issues with Bernie Sanders. His
Mhm.
supporters really were the big issue, but
Yeah.
that people who were supporting him and the way he spoke, I'm like, you need people who are agitators. You need people who are trying to
Mhm.
move the Overton window, and he's great at that, but that's
Yeah.
probably not who you want for your president. Your
Exactly.
president needs to be methodical and believe in incremental change because that's how the
Yeah.
work happens and work gets done.
Right. It happens
Um,
in ways that you and I don't like when people say, oh, a bill should only be 1 page long or something. Like, no. And I think part of this comes from working at Amazon. I understand like the sausage making. It's not something I should need to understand. It's not something that you should
right.
have to understand. We should be able to trust these people to get in there and dig into the boring details. Like Bill Clinton, like I'm tired of him, but he was a policy wonk, and that's
Yes.
really that's really smart. And yeah, Bernie, a great agitator, but not a great legislator, and that's okay. He has a
Right.
place. He just should be in that place.
Right. I
Um,
do love how he, unlike a lot of elders in the Democratic Party, is
mhm.
elevating the next generation, taking AOC on tour with
He
him,
is. Yep.
handing the
Mhm.
torch. When Biden was elected in 2020, I followed that primary season really carefully. Elizabeth Warren was
Mhm.
my favorite as well.
I love her
Um,
so much. Oh my
I know
God.
I met her when she came to Seattle. I
Oh,
waited in line for 3 hours and took a photo with her.
she's so
She,
cute. I
I
love
know,
her.
I love her too. And but when Biden became the candidate, I was like,
Mhm.
go Biden. I donated, and when he
Mhm.
picked Kamala as his running mate, I was like, oh,
Mhm.
he gets it. He was like, I'm only picking a woman.
Yep.
And I
Mhm.
remember talking with Lawrence about this, that we were like, oh, he's old enough. He just needs to know he became president. He ran
Right.
so many
Right.
times. He is going
I
to
get
step
it.
down
Yeah.
at whatever point it is that she could take over the term and then run for 2 more terms. And he's going to
Yep.
be like, America, were you not willing to elect a woman president? Congratulations, you have one.
Here
I
you
was
have.
so certain he understood his role as a bridge because that
Right.
was how it was messaged as he came in. He put her front and center, and
Yep.
it was beautiful. And then he got into power, and she was like, Kamala who? Like, she
I
got no
know.
visibility on her,
Yeah.
no succession plan, and he tried to
Yeah.
grab on, and that's unforgivable.
Yeah, it was really, and I don't know how much of like that was cognitive decline, but I really thought, I blame him partly for her sort of underwhelming vice presidency because like
Yes.
a president, he's her manager, is
Yeah.
supposed to help shape that vice presidency. And
Yes.
there were other, I've forgotten them in the mists of time. There were other reasons like there were other things
Oh, when she
she was
talks, she makes missteps. Like, have you seen our fucking president and the
right,
way he tweets
right.
from the toilet at 3 a.m.? We as a people are fine with that kind of messaging. I actually
Exactly.
thought her campaign was
I thought it was
brilliant.
pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. I
And with no time to do the real research, right? They had to take a
yeah.
crack at it.
I
And it
thought it
was
was it was
Excellent.
really well done considering like the bizarre circumstances.
Yes.
And yeah, I was really disappointed that he ended up trying to like cling to power. And one
Yes.
thing, another thing I'll say about Bernie is Bernie did learn, I think, from 2016. Like I did not hear this misogynist stuff come out of his mouth anymore about Planned Parenthood being the establishment,
Oh,
or
good.
banks are also the establishment, and we still like to have them. Like they do need to exist in some ways.
They do. They
Um,
do. Oh my gosh, I have a list of topics like a mile long here, and I know we only have 9 minutes left till the top of the hour. Um, I want to talk about your next book project because this is another
Yeah.
area where we have in common.
Mhm.
Mine is in complete nascency, but we
Nice.
both are looking to write books about indie music, as in
Yeah.
with indie music at its core. I want to hear about yours because I believe this is your
Yeah.
first crack at fiction writing.
It
As
is. I mean, I published fiction when I was in my 20s. So I got my MFA in fiction writing, published some short
terrific.
stories and things like that. So, but this is my first novel. And I mean, I kind of was working on one like 8 years ago, and this is sort of morphed into this. So okay, this is a very like Gen X backstory, but so you remember Elastica and Justine Frischman? Like, right,
Yeah.
everyone's obsessed with her, right? So
Here we
I,
go again. I'm
yeah.
riding in your car.
I
Yeah, I
wanted
love
to
her.
be her so badly, and I was never going to be anything like that.
Never gonna be
So
her.
she like lives in Denver now. Like she married an
Really?
American anthropology professor or something. And she now is mostly a painter. And like she's not
Oh,
like in hiding or things. She's just Justine Frischman. She just lives in Denver and just has this different life. And so as a writer, my mind's always wandering. And I was like, wow, what if like I lived in Denver and like we met at like so a party or something, like that would be so cool. And then I thought, I'd probably be so worried about seeming like a fangirl that I would just pretend I didn't know who she was. I'd just be like, oh, nice to meet you, Justine. And I was like, oh, and then what if we got to be really good friends and I still hadn't let on that I knew who she was? And then what if like we were such good friends, I was godmother to her children. And at this point, it's just too late to ever say anything. And I thought that's such an awkward, I could totally see myself doing something like this
sure.
and it being incredibly awkward. And then I was like, this would make a good rom-com. But I'm not gay. And so I was just like, I don't want to write a gay rom-com. And not because I think I'm not allowed, just I was like, I'm into guys. So I'm writing this kind of rom-com about, literary rom-com about a woman who loved a band with her whole heart when she was like in college. And I'm kind of modeling them on like, what if REM had broken up after two albums? Like
Okay.
they split up when they're kind of like clearly going to become something, but still a cult band. And
Before losing
like
my religion made them everybody's band.
yeah, yeah. Like during,
Or the one I love,
after
I guess did that.
Reckoning or something like that. And
Yeah.
and so, I think it's like 12 years later, the singer from that band is like, he has a new career. I've worked with several people at Amazon. Like, do you know Steve Mack? Um,
Oh my God. I have a total crush on Steve. I know
yeah,
exactly who
who
he is. Yeah.
doesn't? He's so great. So when I interviewed him for an internal transfer, he was like, yeah, I was in a band before. And I was
That
like, what
petrol
band?
emotion, right?
Yeah. And he was like, you wouldn't have known. And I'm like, tell me their name. And he said that Petrol Emotion. I was like, oh my God, I think I scared him. He was like, whoa. So, I know these people who were in like, Julie's husband was in an early version of the Posies who now just
Yeah.
have these other careers, like we have people from
Yeah.
Fugazi or professors and whatnot. So he's just living his life, and he has some really mixed feelings about the band. So he doesn't talk about it a lot. But,
Right.
it was just a thing he did when he was in his early 20s. And so, they meet, hit it off, and like, she just keeps feeling like, I don't want him to think I'm a groupie. I want him to know me first before I say that I had your picture on my wall. And eventually it's just too late to say anything. And
Oh
just
my
what are
God.
the implications of that you're really lying to someone about something really important. And of course she's going to get caught. And also like there are other people in her life who share that origin story. Like that was their friendship with her grew out of this love of this
Love of the
band, and she's
band.
erasing
Oh,
their stories too because they have to lie for her. And it's just been so it's kind of, it's a comedy, but it has some heft to it. I hope, about like the implications of these lies. And I just want to, it's been fun to think about like, well, what if this, this Southern jangle pop band broke up, and what would their music have been like? And what is it to
oh
be
my
someone
God.
who loved a band that much that it can change your life? And I also, when I dated this person that, we've mentioned, he had been one of my favorite musicians for
Right.
20 years, but so I'd known him, but he hadn't known me. And I remember having this strange feeling for a while that did fade of like, he's been in my life in this weird way, and I've not been in
Right.
his. And
A
so I wanted to,
parasocial relationship.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really weird. And I felt like I had double vision. And so kind of wanted to explore because I haven't seen people really write about that in fiction, like this double vision of like this person has been really important to me, their work, but I am brand new to them. And I also
Yes.
wanted to write about college towns, which I loved. The whole thing is set in a Midwestern college university town. And so I've been working on it for 3 years. Nobody
Oh my
has read
God.
a word of it. I'm about to start, you know, uh, sending the first half to a few writers who read my early stuff. But it's been fun after writing 2 memoirs, like to just be able to make things up. And I deliberately was like, I want to enjoy writing this because it's not. I didn't enjoy writing those memoirs. Like that's really hard,
Right.
and I just wanted to have a good time, and I want my readers to have a good time. Like it's an entertainment,
Oh my
and
God.
that
I
makes me
cannot
so
wait to read
happy.
this book. It sounds
Yes.
fascinating.
I
And
can't wait for it to be readable.
oh my God. I hope I'm not revealing too many secrets here, but this does feel a little bit like a parallel that um Three Imaginary Girls was my music website,
Yeah.
and Liz was and is one of my best friends and like
Mhm.
co-founder. And so we have been talking about pulling a book together.
Mhm.
And part of it is about the music of the spotlight came off Seattle, right? In the after
Yeah.
grunge. And
Yeah.
then there was this fertile ground for music. So part of it will be about the music that was around
Mhm.
us, but it was more about that rare window from 2002 to 2007 or 8,
Okay.
right before iPhones, right before social media and blogging. There were only like three voices to learn about music in
Yeah.
Seattle. And we became another one as women elevating the scene. We ended up becoming part of it and da 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 da. So
Right.
at a broader level, it will be more talking about that window in time when even though we were imaginary, it was all very real in a way that it will never be
Yeah.
real again.
I love
Because
that. Yeah.
parasocial relationships and online relationships, but the funny part that's similar is that one of the bands we championed really hard, Liz was a super fan, like when she was a kid
Mhm.
back in Delaware, like wrote to the singer and he wrote her back and she still has the notes. They're
Oh.
married now. They're married now. And I don't
Oh,
think
oh
she
my
knows
God. That's
that.
amazing.
I know. So
Oh,
that will
that
be
is
part
perfect.
that will probably be woven into the book. But yeah, the
Yeah.
idea of like, um, to a much lesser degree,
Mhm.
having done Three Imaginary Girls and now podcasting every day, it is kind of fascinating both that there are people who I feel like I know all the folks who are in our chat regularly, that we have a
Uh-huh.
relationship even though we don't know each other. Um,
Right.
but
Right.
also when I am dating someone, I wrote an
Mhm.
essay a few weeks ago called The Men Who Still Open Me. I can
Mhm.
see from my dashboard that these exes of mine are still following my work.
Oh, I love it.
Even as they failed to show up for me, which was the only thing I wanted in relationship was
Right.
consistency and showing up. They are
They're still
still
reading you.
lurking and reading.
Yeah.
So that idea of like, it was a problem when we were dating that they thought that we were connecting and like, what do you mean I'm not talking to you enough? Because they got
Mhm.
an hour of me every day.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Right.
but it's
Right.
one-sided. I don't see you.
Yeah. It's funny, Mr.
Mom,
Bad Guy. I remember when I was writing Exit
Mr. Bad.
Interview,
Yeah.
people were like beating down my door to read the draft of this book. I mean,
Oh,
it
I
was
bet.
like people were dying to read it. And I said to him at one point, "Hey, I've got these 20 pages I'm really feeling good about. You want to see?" And he was like, "Oh,
Yeah, you
I'll
did.
I'll just read it when the book comes out."
my
And
God, he's
and
such an
I just
asshole.
I just remember being like, Kristi, you should remember this moment because this is important. Like if someone like you could even just be like, sure, send them, and then it's not like you've got to read them right away. But he was
Right.
so dismissive that in that moment, I think I was like, yeah, you need to back away from this thing. I was
Oh
I
my
want and I
God.
didn't want to be like, do you know who I am? Do you know
Right?
how many people are begging me to read this book? You're
Right. He's all like,
lucky.
I had an indie band in the 90s. I'm very
Right.
famous. And you're like, I'm being featured in the New Yorker.
Yeah, I was like, this book is, I didn't know at the time, I was like, this is going to be reviewed on the front page of the New York Times, Mr. Man.
Right.
But
Talk
just
to
like,
me.
and
I,
I think
yeah.
that it's honestly like there's something about writing about indie music that
Yes.
as women, like we were sort of pushed. I mean, there are women who are memoirists who were in bands, but the fans were kind of, we've not had our say about what it was like to be like not just female in the scene, but the music, to write about the music.
Yes.
And I just wish there aren't enough female critics. And
That's going to be part of what our book was about because
yeah.
in the early aughts, like being and not being groupies and not
Hmm.
trying to date or sleep with the men, we were
Right.
sort of like the room moms of the Seattle
Right.
music scene. We were
Right.
showing up and being like, "Does anyone need cookies? Does anyone need us to
Yeah.
write about their band?" Liz is here in the chat. This is a first.
Okay.
I see her in the chat, and she just said everyone should always say, "Do you know who I am?"
Right.
Yes,
Just
they should.
randomly. Did you know who I
Do you know who I am? Oh my God, I could keep talking to you forever. This is so fun, Christy.
Same.
We do have a question that we
Okay.
always ask on the Daily Whatever
Mhm.
show for folks when they're on their first visit, and I do hope you come back
I'd
because
love to. Yeah.
we would love to keep this
Mhm.
conversation going. But this is the very hard-hitting question that I know you're
Okay.
going to have a very good answer for. What is the most Gen X song of all time? Off the top of your
Ooh.
head. You're in a movie, it's being set, it's deeply Gen X. What song are we listening to?
I am thinking Fucking Run by Liz Phair.
Oh, no one has ever said Liz Fair, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, immediately I thought of Smells Like Teen Spirit because like undeniable,
Yes.
but I think Fucking Run,
Oh my God.
everything about that song is Gen X. I mean, it's just including like the longing in it for something for like letters and
Right.
sodas, but
But
also trying
not
to be
being,
like,
yeah, I don't
yeah,
care. But also I
yeah,
really care. I want all that
yeah, I
stupid
really
old
do
shit.
care. Yeah, yeah. I think that, that album was just she followed me on Twitter when I was still on Twitter. I got kicked off of Twitter like randomly. It wasn't, I'm not so pure that I'm like, I left, and it was like the greatest moment of my life. I was just like, she knows I exist. You
Oh my
know?
God. I am so Change Champion is asking where is the Gen Xy full music list? Jason O'Dell, regular and awesome guy here, has pulled together a Spotify list where he's adding every song as
Oh,
folks
I
name them.
love
I'm
that.
so glad Fucking Run is being added. Fun fact,
I'm surprised it's never come up before just
not
because
yet. Not
yeah,
yet. And it's like Exile in Guyville is unfuckwithable, every
yeah,
single note.
it's
But
so
Fucking
perfect.
Run is a manifesto. The droll voice,
Yeah,
the insouciance, but the earnestness at the same time.
yeah.
I used to sing that song to my babies when I was rocking them in the middle of the night and like
It's very
exhausted.
sing-songy.
It
Yeah,
is, and they didn't know what I was singing as their babies, and I'd be like, "Whatever happened to a boyfriend?"
right.
And I
And I think
want,
it's the
yeah.
first Liz Phair song I ever heard too.
Well,
Um,
mine was Supernova. I came in a little late.
okay, yeah, that
And
second
I love
album. Yeah.
Supernova. Yeah.
That second
But I went
album's
back to
really good.
Exile and was like, I went to
Yeah.
grad school in Nashville, and that was
Okay.
before the internet. So I have this gaping hole for 2 years of like
Right.
the only
I
bands that
was
made it through were the Breeders, Last Splash, and one of
uh-huh.
the Bjork records, and everything else was like I didn't hear a thing.
I was in Ann Arbor and there was School Kids Records was there. And so like every
Oh yes.
Tuesday And I lived like a block from there my first year. So I would go and they wouldn't even have the stuff. They still have the stuff in boxes. I'd show up at like 10 a.m. and be like, here are the cassettes I want. Cassettes, I was still buying
Of course.
cassettes. And so I remember that I actually got on vinyl because it was just such a cool record. It was a double record. I got
Oh my God, I
that
love
and something else really iconic the same day. And just
that.
I didn't know what to make of Liz Phair. First, I was like, do I like this? I don't know. And quickly I was like,
Oh,
yeah, you do. You really, really do. And
oh my
she's
God.
great. I loved her, her sellout record. I
Yeah.
was just horrified by it at the time. That thing is great. That's a
I didn't
great
listen to
record.
it, and I heard the Why Can't I, the one single, but I need to go
Yeah.
listen to it because she probably did get beaten down unfairly, including by me. We
Well,
all evolve and change, and
Pitchfork
exile
gave
was
it
a
a
moment in time.
0. They gave it a 0 out of 10.
Of course they
Yeah.
did, because she was a woman at 40 being sexy.
Yeah,
I
and
now see that.
very poppy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
I need
boy,
to
that
go back and
record's
listen
great.
to it. I will do
Mhm.
that. But fun fact, when I first came to Substack and didn't know what I was doing yet,
Mhm.
my personal Substack was called Letters and Sodas.
Oh, I love it.
Like
I
that's
love
how,
it.
and my LLC is called Letters and Sodas. I've had
Maybe
online
the book
dating
will be called
handle.
Letters and Sodas.
Yeah, I had my online dating profile years ago when you used to put like a moniker instead of a name. It
Oh
was
yeah.
Letters and Sodas. And I had like 1% maybe of men being like, oh, Liz Phair.
I was
Most were
gonna say
like,
it's kind of it's a green flag if somebody's like, I know what this
exactly,
means. Yeah.
exactly. And most
Yeah.
people were like, I don't think soda's very good for you. And I was like,
Oh,
run along, sir.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
You're no
want all
fun.
that stupid old shit. Oh my God.
So
Um,
it is.
So Liz, I love her. And Liz Riley Tollefson in the chat. I love you too.
Yes.
I'm so happy you're here.
I've got to
Um,
figure out now. I'm gonna have to figure out who she's married to so I know which band it is.
do I out it here? No, they'll keep it a surprise, but
Mhm.
I'll message you. You got to read the book
Okay.
that doesn't exist yet. But I am going to be coming to you to talk. We didn't even talk about memoir writing, which was like top of
Yeah,
my
I was
list.
gonna say, let me know if I can help. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard.
Yes. All right, Kristi, I have to let you go,
All
regrettably, but we're
right.
going to do this again.
Yes, I
Thank
would
you
love
to
it.
everyone in the chat. Oh my gosh, we've got a
Mhm.
lot of folks here in the chat, and
Oh,
everybody
that's so
is
great. I love
singing
what a
your
team you've
praises.
made of this. This is wonderful.
We
All right. Well,
we're here every weekday. It's crazy, but
I know and it's like 8 a.m. where you are.
7 a.m. Well, it was 7 a.m. when it starts,
That's crazy.
so I can do it before work. Yeah,
Oh
and
my
before my
God.
kids go to school.
I would just not do it. I'm
I
not a morning
it is.
person.
I am not a morning person at all, and I'm a creative, so it's terrible. I
Yeah.
like to write into the night, but we
Yeah.
do what we must.
Yes.
Have a wonderful day,
You
everyone. Please come
too.
back
Happy
tomorrow
good
for Fucked
birthday.
Up Friday. We've got the opinionated ogre coming on to break down the news of the week. Lawrence will be back. And yeah, love you, mean it. Have a
Okay.
wonderful rest of your Thursday. Bye,
Bye.
Christy.
See you
And I
later.
hope Lawrence is ending the live stream because I don't have access, but